Good evening. I'll welcome everyone to the workshop session for tonight. First item is discussion and updates related to COVID-19. Chief Smith.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's nice to be here for the first time this year. Last time we met was December 13th of 2021. We're currently going through all the stuff with the Omicron, so whenever you hear some of these numbers, I appreciate your patience with this a little bit because some of these numbers are going to be quite staggering compared to what we used to have. Total number of cases, COVID-19 in the state of Texas, we're now at 4,176,000. That's up from 3,600,000, so about 500,000 since the last time we met. Lampasas County now has a total of 3,336. We were at 3,083 the last time that we met in December. Active cases in the state, we're at 340,000 active cases in the state of Texas now. If you'll remember, at the beginning of December, we were at 75,000 basically, 74,646. So we've gone up a little over 4 times that amount at this time. Active cases in Lampasas County, we're now up to 252 here in the county. This is up from 56. Fatalities are at 75,281. Our last meeting we were at 73,409. This is an increase of 1,800 over a period of 4 weeks. So in a 4 weeks time, 1,800. DSHS shows that a report of 72 fatalities here in Lampasas County. This is up 2 from the last time that we met. Hospitalizations are up, but they're not up in scale along with the new cases that we have going on. If you look at 4 times the amount, we're not at 4 times the amount of hospitalizations. That's one of the good things about Omicron. We've got 10,013 in hospitals across the state. Service area L, we're at 146 that are hospitalized, 113 are in regular rooms, and 27 are in ICU beds. There are 6 pediatric patients hospitalized at this time. Vaccinations by zip code, we're at 6,098 with 1 shot. We're at 5,328 with fully vaccinated. Vaccinations by the county, we're at 10,769, fully vaccinated 9,280. We've got 3,043 people that have had their booster shot. And the last but not least, the saddest part of all this, in the deaths of 909 new fatalities in just this past week. 909 fatalities in this past week. We still have 85% of those are 50 and older. 50 and older is still that large number that's in on that. So those are the numbers that I have for you for COVID. Do you all have any questions for me?
Thank you, sir. Second item is discussion regarding setting a date and topics for February 2022 council work session.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This agenda item is a follow-up to our discussion on December 8th, whereby we queried council on their desire to hold a kind of an ongoing quarterly roundtable format meeting. It was suggested that we look at dates in February for a follow-up. Just to remind you, I think a couple of things that we still have left on the table, and certainly we can take up whatever topic council would also like to take up at that time, but we did not get completely into our comprehensive plan implementation steps that we wanted to spend some time on. And I think that's a testament to the worthiness of this meeting. We got so ingrained in terms of talking about council priorities and satisfaction in certain areas that, and really flushing some of the action steps out with that we didn't get done with all of our business. We did follow up on, I believe, December 13th and talk about the projects and gave you an update there. But I'd want to ask council what their thoughts are in terms of a February meeting time, as well as perhaps in addition to discussing the comprehensive plan implementation, what other topics you would like to discuss. Our council meetings in February are on the 14th and 28th. The 21st is a holiday. The week of the 14th is pretty busy in terms of meetings already. We have LEDC that week, and I believe we also have, I don't know if it's Parks Board that week, so there's several meetings. So the week of the 14th, we don't see it as maybe as good a week as others, but certainly interested in council's comments.
Well, I would look to those that have other obligations, I think.
Week after?
You know, the week after or the week before, the 7th through the 10th is relatively open in terms of city meetings, or the 22nd through the 24th.
Through the 10th. We did that on like a Tuesday, was it a Tuesday or
I believe it was a Thursday.
Thursday night?
Right.
We're going to do the afternoon thing again, like as soon as we can, right?
I think it seemed like that worked pretty well to start at 4, and certainly, but we'd start at whatever time is convenient for council.
It works for me.
I'm okay with it.
Yes, ma'am. That week looks all right. Are y'all, so we're talking the February the 10th?
That would be a Thursday, or you could do 7th is a Monday, whatever council likes.
Well, I'm going to say, I think these three, anytime's good. Randy,
We're good.
probably same thing. Maybe get with Zach and see how his.
Yeah, I would check with Zach and check on the 7th or the 10th. Either works for me.
Okay. We'll check on that first week in February, or I guess that would be the second, almost the second week.
Yeah, second week.
But we'll check on that time frame with Councilman Morris and let y'all know, and see if we can't get started maybe 4:30 at the latest. What other topics is council interested in talking about? And for some reason, if you think of something in the middle of the night, you can always call me tomorrow and mention it to me as well. So continue following up on the comprehensive plan, and we'll review, obviously, the previous meeting from December 8th and some of the items that were brought up and action steps that were brought up there.
There was a lot that we didn't get to, so I think if we just continue on those paths, it'd work for me.
Would for me too. I think we need to maybe look at prioritizing. There's a lot out there.
You bet.
You know, I think one of the things is the New Hope Church would be one, and the other, the school. Let's
Okay.
talk about it, moving forward with it.
Very good.
Sounds good.
Thank you, council. We'll proceed based on our conversation.
Next up is discussion and updates regarding FY 2021 year-end financial report.
You should have at your dais a bound book. I'm not going to go into all 89 pages here. It's not my... When we put this together, we have a couple of goals. We do want to provide you the information, but we also want to provide you perspective. So it may not necessarily be as important for me to explain that we're $50,000 over here, $50,000 short here, but we want to explain to you some of the impacts that we've seen based on Winter Storm Uri, the ongoing pandemic, workforce, why was our electricity expense higher than it has been. We want to try to give you the reasons why we didn't have to transfer as much money from one fund to another, and that's because of the performance. More people wanted to get out and play golf. More people, wanted to shop locally and spend their tax dollars locally, or their money locally, creating increased sales tax. So I don't want to bore you with this, and certainly I look forward to any questions you might have in the coming days or weeks as you look through this. But generally what I'll do is I'll go through the narrative. I'll use that as an outline of my comments to you. I will also talk to you about the contents of the rest of this book, and so if you wanted specific information about the balance sheet for the general fund or the balance sheet for the water and wastewater fund, that information is in here. How much money we have invested in what manner is also included. We used to do this on a quarterly basis, but it's such a monster to do that we have since gone to more of an annual wrap-up. So everything in this book I've tried to summarize in about 4 different ways. One is it was a tough year. It was good in some regards, but overall, I think the single most critical financial issue was Winter Storm Uri and that impact on our electric purchases. I also want to tell you that we maintained our commitment to capital improvements. The only reason we did not spend money on a capital improvement is because a project got pushed back or delayed, and the example of that is East 3rd Street project. We had trouble getting surveyors to do that extension, then we decided, well, we're not going to do it. Anyway, so it rolled into this fall and first quarter, but that's the only reason that project was pushed forward to 2022, where we didn't spend money there. We also had the ability through this budget to handle some unbudgeted items. The West 3rd Street drainage, you know, that was over a $100,000 project that frankly we had to do. East Avenue H was a project that we had to do because of undermining of that roadway that we could not have known until it started to fail. I think the other thing that I would let you know that we also, what we present to you here is a balanced budget. We actually came in on target. And I also want to explain to you kind of what the two common things that you'll hear me say over and over is we take a look at an apples to apples view of the budget and our actual expenditures. We will go in afterwards with auditors and they will capitalize some of those capital purchases and turn that into depreciation. We don't budget that way, nor do we typically take on any long-term debt that would lend itself to depreciation. If we buy a Vector truck, we go out and write a check for it. If we buy police cars, we write a check for it. So what we budget and what we spend, if we spent $300,000 on a sweeper, that's what we show is an expense. If we spend $791,000 in streets for our street department, that's what we show. We didn't depreciate any of that out. We also, so that is something that you'll see in apples to apples. The budget you approved and the expenditures we made are what this report represents. The other thing that I want to also remind everybody of is that we'll talk a lot about transfer of money into departments from other departments to be shown as revenue as well as expenditures. So for example, we may expense a transfer in our electric department and show it as income in our general fund. Our electric department, water, wastewater, pays franchise fees, they pay support fees. So when we do that, if the general fund does not need that revenue because of sales tax or financial performance at the golf course, it's not transferred, it's kept in electric. And also, we don't need to draw that expense from electric, so that reduces their expense. It does reduce revenue, but it's because that revenue is not needed in order to balance the budget. So that's why, you know, you'll see that we are under on our revenue expense related to transfers, and we're also under on our revenue expense related to transfers. So that's something that just to keep in mind. If we need it, we transfer it. If we don't need it, we don't. It stays in that fund. I just want to, you know, the first part of our narrative talks a little bit about some of the challenges we had. As council is aware, there's some real positive things in terms of sales tax, golf course, our ability to maintain our capital improvement program. But we still had impacts based on the COVID impacts to our workforce, supply chain impacts. So we're waiting for parts for fixing restrooms. We're waiting for transformers. Some of these transformers went from 4 to 8 weeks out to 40 to 50 weeks out. So when we're waiting for people to get hooked up to electricity, some of these things are pushed out and cause an impact on us. Also vehicles. Some of our vehicles were a long time getting here. You know, I think, you know, our bottom line is that the financial health of the city remains sound. You have good reserves. The performance, actual to budget, was balanced. And we were able to accomplish a lot of things that council wanted us to do in that budget. And just as a reminder, what we're looking at is pre-audit and pre-amendment position of the city. So this is As the auditors come in and make adjustments, or as we make amendments, we did not include any of those amendments in this. What this book includes is the narrative, which, you know, hopefully it doesn't put you to sleep, but if you had specific questions, maybe something sparks your interest, pick up the phone and call me and we can kind of go through it. It has the departmental performance by major account. So the next tab, and if you'll bear with me, if you just turn to the next tab, it says performance by major account, and go to page 2. So all of our operating budgets are rolled up into this. So you can see that our general fund, if you look at the second column, general fund finished at a $400,000 surplus. That represents your commitment to funding a fire apparatus. Water, wastewater, positive year, $466,000 surplus. Electric, as we all know, they came in at about an $850,000 deficit. The rest of the funds balanced out basically through some through transfers in and support from other departments, and we'll talk a little bit about more about that. So behind this, you'll also have the individual areas. So for example, then if you turn to page 35 on that sheet, you'll see electric department. And there's a lot in between there. If you want to know how the animal shelter is doing, there's a page in there for that. But you see the electric department. Our fourth quarter actual, we missed our target on revenue by about $190,000, which on a $12 million revenue budget is not bad. But our expenses, and in particular what I'd want to point out to you, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, if you go into 5200 supplies and read across, the second column says that we spent $7.8 million on supplies, which that line includes cost of electricity. We were budgeted to spend $6.3 million, so right there's about almost $1.5 million that we were overspent in our purchases for electricity, and that's probably the most significant item, as council is aware, that we dealt with this past year. So that is within that section of the booklet. Your balance sheets are next. If you wanted to thumb through those and, for example, see, you know, what you have designated in your general fund for certain items. So we'll still have like a designated comprehensive plan. You've got $9,000 there. It also tells you exactly what your cash position is, or your position of unrestricted assets. Those are all of your balance sheets for the operating fund. You have your September 30th financial report, which tells you about where we have money invested. A couple of things you may want to look at is what's your weighted average maturity, how long does it take to get your money back, and really because interest rates are so low right now, we don't really have anything spread out there too long, because you're still not going to get very good return even if your money is out. The very last tab I kind of added at the last minute, but these are just some different supplementary financial documents. I have a hot fund comparison, some balance sheets that are non-operating that may be of interest to you, statement adjustments, and then if you look at the very last page of the booklet, and under that tab, I believe that's page 9, when we talked about giving you an apples-to-apples look at the performance, you can see where we've been 2019, 2020, and FY 2021. We took a big hit. I think I liked the analogy that Phil Wilson used from LCRA. We got punched in the nose, but we didn't go to the hospital. And I think that spells it out. We've had several good years, even before 2019. and we hung on. We did have to use some reserves, but those were budgeted. I want to just hit a couple of high points on the revenue side. We were close to our plan on expectations. We made about 97% of our expectations on revenues. Revenue was related somewhat to transfer revenue and then other revenue. That's where your utility fees come from. You can see by the pie chart, utilities make up about 58% of your overall revenue. When we talk about sales tax and we get excited about sales tax and spend a lot of time talking about property tax, to put that in perspective, that's still only about total 12% of your overall revenue budget. Your city is operating based on its utilities and its enterprise funds. I think the bright spot that we would want to highlight, particularly on the revenue side, is, again, our utility revenue was generally on target, but the tax revenue exceeded budget expectations by about $562,000. Excuse me, that sales tax exceeded budget expectations by about $562,000, $500,000 more sales tax revenue than we budgeted. And that was about $368,000 better than the previous year. And I think the conversation I had with the mayor is that I don't know how long that's sustainable, that type of growth, but I don't know that I necessarily see it taking a nosedive. I think, if anything, it's going to flatten out, but certainly we're optimistic, cautiously optimistic, but continue to budget very, very conservatively on sales tax. In terms of transfer revenue, we're about $600,000 under budget for transfer revenue, and again, that talks about if we didn't need it, we didn't transfer it in, so that revenue isn't shown. Just talking a little bit about utility, retail utility rates. So the retail sales of our utilities makes up about 53% of our overall budget. That is just strictly selling you X number of gallons of water and X number of kilowatts. But the utility rates generally were on track. The single largest contributor to the city's revenue line, the electric department had about $11.5 million on a plan of 11.7, so it was very close to being on track. Getting into the expenses, and again, just looking at the pie chart, and this gives you a little bit more perspective, but if you look at the revenue pie chart, electric was about 42% of your revenue. It's about 45% of your expense, and hopefully you'd want those pretty close to even, right? But a little more, and again, that's because of the Winter Storm Uri. The cost of everything generally, about $1 million better than planned overall on the expense side. Just about every major account on the expense side was underspent, with the exception of supplies, and that was a direct result of the increase in cost of electricity. Just for your information, salaries are making up about salary and benefits are making up about 27.5% of your total expense line. The target there was we were underspent by about $157,000. That's really due entirely to vacancies that we have from time to time. We always have a vacancy loss in terms of we budget for full staffing, and then as people come and go, we typically will pick up some under expensed lines there. Capital expenditures were about a little over $500,000 better than planned, due primarily to the timing of the East 3rd Street rehabilitation. Those increased budget amounts were incorporated this year, so we should be able to do East 3rd Street plus what we would do normally with our regular paving this year as well. And again, transfer expense represented significant savings to plan. We reduced transfers from the electric fund by almost $800,000, and that was due in part to the performance in the general fund and economic development fund and golf course fund. What you have on the picture below this is the overall roll-up of all operating funds. These are all of the accounts, including our general as well as our enterprise funds that we budget for each year. So when we bring you a budget package, this represents the roll-up of all of those various departmental budgets. I want to talk just very quickly about some economic indicators. We like to throw this in there, and again, we want to let you know that this is a relatively small percentage of the overall city budget, but I think it does also provide you some perspective of trends in our local economy and perhaps in some cases the health of the local economy. You can see our sales tax overall in the last 5 years has increased by about 42%. That's about a 10.7% increase per year. Property tax is not quite as dramatic, but that increase is averaging about 3.9%. Building planning fees, 10.7% per year. And of course, a lot of this has happened in the last 3 years. The first 2 years, if you were to drop them off, that number would really look pretty impressive. Or, excuse me, it would reduce. So where we've come from 17 to 19 or 20 is pretty significant. Mixed drink tax, and again, this is nothing. It doesn't even show up as a percent on if we were to use it on any sort of pie chart, but again, it does show you some of the trends that I think have been related to a certain extent in some annexation that we have done, as well as the local option that was approved in 2019. We also have, just for your information, I need to make one correction on that indicator chart. I had a bad formula in there. The variance between 2021 in terms of all of those items and 2017 is about $850,000. It's not $449,000. So we have generated out of just those lines an additional $850,000 from where we were. That's about a 30% increase or 7.7 average annual increase. Also have information there in terms of the number of new customers we've had since 2017. A couple of other quick notes that I would want to point out to you. We have some projects that are based on the resources within Fund 40. I've provided you a quick breakdown on Fund 40 and our ability to support eligible projects in the future. If you also want to look at that supplemental documents, the very first page in there gives you kind of a nerdy look at the Fund 40 and what we've spent on it and what's available and that sort of thing. But also I would want to point out the American Recovery Act, and that's in your supplemental documents. You've got a balance sheet for Fund 35, which represents the American Recovery Act. The city received $989,000. This year, that will be the first of two payments to the city, and it's primarily, at least in our thinking, and hopefully we would like to talk to council, maybe perhaps in February at our get-together, our planning meeting, about some of the targets for those funds. Certainly, we have some needs that we know will be upcoming at our wastewater and pretreatment plant and other water and sewer projects, which those funds are eligible for. Aviation fund, and again, this is not a huge impact on our balance sheet or fund balance for the aviation department or aviation fund, but we will receive about a $48,000 reimbursement from Txdot for the recent airport project that came in under estimates. We look forward to any comments or questions you might have. We think that there is still a lot on our plate, a lot to do, a lot that we have a need to do. I think just to restate, hopefully what you see in this report is that, we had an atypical year, but even as rough as it was, as hard a hit as we thought we took and we knew we took, in February we were still able to pave streets, fix roads, buy equipment, do the things that you charged us to do. I think what we normally would do is ask you to take a look at this, and then we will bring it back at the next meeting for additional questions, and then at council's desire, we would ask for your acknowledgement at the next meeting.
Finley, I just have one question about those CARES funds. Have they finally decided what you can use them for?
I may have to look over my shoulder at Jeff, but I think there was an understanding of what they could be used for, and then we're hearing of different entities using it in different ways that doesn't
Right.
seem to line up. Is that accurate, Chief, or have you heard?
I think it's easy to say that a lot of entities have found creative ways to use it. As far as reading the guidance that we have in the original document, it falls in 5 different categories. Probably the best category for us to get maximum use without any question or any pushback from the federal government. Anytime we do that in a water project, anytime with the sewer or anything like that, whether it be an upgrade or new extension, whatever, it's going to fall underneath that, and it should be above reproach.
There should be no pullback from that. I did go to a conference, and lots of people in different cities were talking about if they did spend the money for what they thought they could, would the government come get it back? No one had an answer at that point.
Yeah, and I think what I've been hearing in terms of how some other jurisdictions are using those funds doesn't seem like it lines up with what those 5 categories are.
No.
But
No, they're using it.
certainly we always have needs for water and wastewater, plant work. I mean, that's a pretty easy target to meet, I think, from our standpoint, because we make those investments year in, year out.
Anyone have questions tonight from this report, or you want to wait till you've read over it? All good? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion regarding the extension of the emergency ordinance for COVID-19 sick leave policy. Yvonne?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just want to give you a little bit of background and some numbers regarding the emergency ordinance that we did pass last January. Last year was the second year that we did it. So when we started out in 2020, when COVID hit us hard, we had created a sick pool years ago for employees that had a catastrophic event. They could pull from the sick pool. At that time, we had a terminally ill employee, and we decided to go ahead and do the sick pool at that time. So when we started in January 2020, we had 4,523 hours in the sick pool. With it being over 4,000, we didn't have to do another contribution drive because we had plenty of hours in there. When 2020 hit, those employees that were affected by COVID either had to be quarantined, actually had COVID, things of that nature. We used 2,154 hours out of that 4,500. That was about 45 employees that used the COVID. So last year we did a contribution drive in 2021, and that contribution drive was 49 employees, and they gave a little over 1,100 hours. And then 2021, when we did the emergency ordinance again, we used 2,639 hours, and that was about 54 employees. So as of right now, we have 833 hours in our sick pool. We are in the middle of a contribution drive right now. So far to date, we have 1,398 hours contributed.
Well, I'll just say congratulations and thank you to all those employees that are contributing their sick time.
Yes, we appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. So just want to kind of give you a background on numbers. The last ordinance did last for 12 months. It was up to 80 hours. So depending on what y'all want to do tonight, how you want to extend it, it's open, however you want to redo it.
My first thought was to bump it down to 40 hours with the reports that we're getting on the lessened symptoms and backlash of the new strain. So, and maybe limit it to 6 months and see how things are in the future. That's just my thoughts.
There is a corresponding action item tonight for the decision on that.
Okay.
Any questions?
Anybody else have any?
I agree that, I mean, I think there definitely needs to be something in place because the number's going up, but with the quarantine being chopped down to half the time, I think 40 hours is good, especially with the pool being a little bit shallower.
Yeah. So hopefully that would work. Any other questions or comments? Thanks, Yvonne.
Thank you.
Next item is discussion regarding Txdot request to purchase City of Lampasas property on Highway South 281 for proposed improvements.
Morning, Mayor and Council, hopefully the next time Ryan Ward will be able to present this type of item to you, based on his experience with Txdot. We received the attached packet regarding the need for a strip of land approximately 15 feet by 715 feet. That particular piece of property is shown in your packet on page 19 and 20, which is the survey of it. You can see, or maybe you can't see, the aerial on page 14. If you can kind of decide or figure out where the assisted living is versus the Alfredos, that's basically where that strip of land runs. It is my understanding, and I'd probably want to confirm this, my understanding is that that strip is needed basically to provide some sort of retaining wall, support wall for the infrastructure they'll be doing in the highway. This is basically the creek bank for most of it on the east side of Sulphur Creek. As the attached packet indicates, Txdot first step is to appraise and prepare an offer to the city. Frankly, we don't see much to get excited about in terms of the conveyance of this property to Txdot, depending on what they have to offer. And the reason for us placing this on the workshop agenda is to obviously get any council feedback and direction. But one thought, and certainly staff is happy to bring back the offer from Txdot to council, or if you wanted to, again, give staff the authority to handle the negotiation and finalize the conveyance, you could do that as well. But certainly we don't have any problem in the world in bringing this back to you. It's simply up to you. Like I said, it's not I don't know how you value a creek bank, but they'll come up with something. We do, as council may recall, we do have signed an agreement to participate in the purchase of some right-of-way, 10% at the intersection of Naruna and 281, so that we could have a north and south turn lane onto 281 going eastbound on Naruna. So we will have some expense for right-of-way, and then we'll probably also have this perhaps as some income to offset that expense. So we're happy to answer any questions and get your feedback on whatever direction you'd like us to take.
I have to apologize. I'm a little confused on where, because looking at the map, I guess the purple line on the aerial map is the same line on that matches the survey on page 19. Is that correct? The purple line is the survey line?
Are you talking about the purple line on page 14?
Yeah,
No, that's the corporate limit lines.
Okay.
Those are the city limit lines. It is not delineated on this aerial, but if you take a look basically from Alfredo's parking lot to the edge of the assisted living parking lot on the west side of 281. So it might be, so the other thing too, on page 20, you have a kind of an enlarged survey on page 20. And that 15-foot by 715-foot strip is right there. Does everybody knows where that low water crossing is there on the creek for access to the property on the other side of 2 or 3, or both 2 and 3? But that, basically, it's about in the middle. That low water crossing is about in the middle of what they're looking at.
My thought is, it's not going to be a tremendous amount of money, I wouldn't think, that they're going to offer us. I don't have any problem with letting Finley handle that, but
I don't either.
anyone else's ideas?
And obviously, Mayor and Council, if there's something that's just crazy, I'll bring it back to you.
Right. Like $1 million, you'd bring that back to us, right?
I'd probably just sign that as fast as I could. Well, there's a corresponding action item on the regular agenda.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everything else? Thanks, Finley. Do we have any other item on the agenda that we need to talk about? Do we want to take a break or go right on in?
Whatever y'all want to do.
I'm good.
Let's just continue on. Are we waiting on anyone in particular? Okay. Okay. Well, let's just adjourn the workshop and go on in. Someone give us a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Call to order the regular session, and Chief Bailey, if you would.
Please rise and join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we have some athletes that are coming here this evening, and we'd like to thank you for their strength and for their leadership that they show. They set a goal, and they finished that goal. We're very proud of them, Father. Father, we ask that you provide us that daily guidance and wisdom, and we ask that you watch over our meeting tonight. Give us good communication skills, Lord, so that we can talk openly and honestly and calmly with one another. Father, Chief Smith told us of the numbers of increasing COVID. We know that many people are suffering from the loss of loved ones. We know that pain too well, Father. Father, we ask that you heal all that are ill and that you soothe those hearts that are aching, Lord, for their loved ones. Father, we ask that you heal us and that you sustain us. Father, may you watch over us as we continue with our meeting tonight and watch over all those as they journey back home. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Excuse me.
We do have some presentations and proclamations. The first item is a service recognition for Shanda Subia for 15 years. I'm not sure who wants to speak to that. Finley?
I think council here hears probably not frequently enough about the good things that are going on at the library. And it's not just simply a place to take a book off a shelf. The job with with her partners in the foundation and on the board in terms of outreach and providing resources and just drive by the library. It's what a beautiful resource for our community. And for 15 years, Shanda's kind of held on and done a great job and promoted and pushed programming out. And just as a staff person, I want to say congratulations, and we certainly want you all to come up and say whatever, if you'd like to make any comments as well. But I'll let you do the formal presentation, Mayor.
that again, I like that.
So, on to a little bit more boring stuff. 1.1, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is not included on the agenda may do so at this time. The city council may not deliberate on items presented under this agenda item. We have no one. 1.2, citizen comments. Any citizen who desires to address the city council on a matter that is included on the agenda may do so at this time. I don't see anyone. 2.1, minutes. Discussion and possible action concerning approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held on December 13th, 2021.
I didn't see any corrections. Recommend approval.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have the consent agenda. 3.1, discussion and possible action to approve the second reading of an ordinance to approve, deny, or approve with modifications a request for a specific use permit for property described as Warren Badger First Tract, 2.5 acres, and Warren Badger Second Tract, 2.55 acres, of the Daniel Stanley Survey, abstract number 631, commonly known as 2209 South Highway 183, Lampasas, Texas, Lampasas County, to allow for the sale of storage buildings. 3.2, discussion and possible action regarding the second reading of an ordinance amending the adopted budget for the municipal city government of the city of Lampasas for the fiscal year of October 1, 2020 to September 30, 2021. 3.3, discussion and possible action regarding purchases and charges in excess of $4,000 from December 1, 2021 through December 31, 2021. And 3.4, discussion and possible action regarding the November 2021 investment report. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items?
No.
I'd entertain a motion.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? We have a board report this month, Public Works.
Bear with us. We're going to make sure this works real quick. Okay, with that being said, I just want to take the opportunity to go ahead and introduce the Public Works Department. This evening, for their annual report, you're going to have the entire Public Works supervisors. They'll come up and present their individual reports for their individual departments. The street department is run by Carl. He has 6 employees. You have the electric department that is run by Flint Gig, 7 employees. And then you have Van Sims, and he has 9 employees. It's going to start with Carlos is going to take over, and he'll go through the PowerPoint with you, but you do have one at your dais to follow along with him as well.
Good evening, Council Mayor. My name is Carlos Garcia. I'm the street superintendent. For the year October 2021, as Becky stated, I've got 6 employees, and they're all good, hard workers. No complaints. For the year, we completed 92 work orders, and on there, it gives a breakdown for miscellaneous street repair, trimming trees, pothole patching, street cleanup, street sweeping, drainage work, and street signs. Street department responsibilities: patching, street repairs, potholes, street sweeping, mowing, seal coating, brush chipping, tree trimming, street sign maintenance, collection station. For the year 2021, street department, we did this drain by ourselves. We replaced the drain on East Avenue H from taking the culverts completely out and putting them back in there and seal coating the road. We did that in-house. We rebuilt and seal coated East Avenue B from Hackberry to Gemmel. Ron Farr built houses all along that block. And if we would have went in there and did the individual patches, you know, it'd still be there. So we waited till all the houses were done and all the utility connections were done, and we went there and rebuilt the whole thing, so it looks great in that neighborhood. We had a contractor on West 3rd from Porter to Landon replace that drain over there due to it collapsing. And then we seal coated projects on East Avenue H from Avenue G to Gemmel, and East 4th Street from Summer to House Street. Collection station, that's been fun to run since we brought that on. I've been doing, I can say I've had it from the beginning. Citizen collection station, we brought in $19,292. Haul charge is $304.68. You break that down, it's $31.50 per ton, and we collected 131 tons. Recycle center, we brought in $9,433. Or that's the expense, correct? That's the expense. I'm sorry, that's the expenses. Haul charge is $315 per ton. It's $50 per ton. 17 tons collected. That's a lot. I know we're replacing that recycle bin at least once a week, if not twice a week sometimes. And revenue collected is approximately $24,000. Future projects, reconstruction of East 3rd Street from Key Avenue to Western and more. Drain replacement on East 2nd Street from Western to Live Oak. So on that street, if y'all been down 2nd Street, we got it coned off in certain spots. There's like 2x2 blocks, and over the time, the 18-wheelers have crushed all that down. So it's all caving in. So right now, that's in Derek Eckerman's hands. The survey is complete, and he'll get back to us probably within the next couple of weeks on that one.
So work possibly to start on that pretty soon?
We're gonna see if we can't get it also with this contractor we have in town, if I'm not mistaken. Any questions?
I was just going to comment on the collection center. Does it appear lots of citizens are using that?
Yes, ma'am.
Well,
I know that one day that I ran it, I had 23 recycles, a lot of brush. I mean, I probably had 40 people in there in one day.
great.
So
That's good to hear.
it's busy down there.
What type of things do we recycle down there? How does that process work?
So we take cardboards, plastics, paper, and we got a recycle bin that the customer comes and puts it in. I'm sure there's more we take. I don't have a list in front of me.
Okay.
No glass.
Yeah.
No glass,
But
okay.
it works well.
And then we pay to have that hauled off, is that?
Yes, sir.
That's right.
What it is, there's a fee assessed to the customers already on a monthly base. So what is it, 50 cents or
50 cents.
what? I can't remember what it is. It's 50 cents, maybe $1 each monthly on utility bill, and that's what covers the recycle part.
I see, okay. And then let me ask you one more question, Carlos. When we get questions about a, you know, for lack of a better word, a pothole in town, what's the chain of command to get to you to be able to tell citizens that this is gonna be fixed, or what? How does that work?
Well, I'll use East 2nd Street, for example, down there by Hackberry. that is one of the worst spots to have potholes, you know, because 18-wheelers get in there and turn the pavement and just twist on it. And we try keeping an eye weekly on that area to keep it patched. Now, there's times that we cannot get by there, but I myself, I'll go throughout the town and I'll make a list. And when I have I'm shorthanded or enough to have a pot patching crew, that's what I give them on, and that's what we go work on. If a citizen has any potholes or anything, they can call City Hall, and City Hall will get a hold of us, and we'll go take care of them.
Gotcha, okay.
Any other questions for Carlos?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Mayor, I'm Flint with the Electric Department. We currently have 7 employees. The Electric Department, we had a little over 1,100 service orders last year. Our main one being line locates. That seems to be a high one right now. And it'll be a continual one. It won't ever slow down. The Electric Department responsibilities. We do service connects and disconnects. That line item also goes into the new services, the temp services, and the service upgrades. We also do line builds to new customers. We do service repairs that are on our side. We do pole changeouts. Of course, again, the line locates, trim trees, and power outages. The projects that we had this last year were the Golden Chick with Pizza Works, the new Covenant Church building, the high school tech building, Whataburger, and Cefco. We also had 7 builds to new houses, 1 to a new well, and also 1 to the community church down there on 4th Street. To look at these pictures, here at Cefco, we set 7 poles over there around Cefco. Most of those were poles that we had to move. They were really not new ones, as in to build a line. The line was already there. They had them in driveways and stuff like that that they wanted to put, so we had to replace them. The next one is Whataburger. At Whataburger, we replaced 1 pole at that location, but in the process of that, we had to upgrade a line down 8th Street in order to be able to backfeed that from a different direction to be able to feed the church and, the bank that's there on the other corner. Hillside Acres project, we've set about 35 poles out there currently. The LISD Auto Tech project, we already had the power out there. All we had to do was set a transformer bank out there to feed that. The Electric Department current projects is Stone Valley, which is about 95% complete. Brody Estates, also 95% complete. Hillside Acres subdivision, we're 100% complete with the outer edges of it. They now have about 4 houses out there being built. When the contractors come in and they want a house being built, then we'll build into them. The pole inspection replacement, we started out with approximately 389 poles. We have replaced 331 of those. And then Next Link Fiber, they're getting on our poles now. They have permitted probably about 1,000 of our poles. Good. The electric upcoming projects that we have for 2022, the Hidden Oak subdivision, which is approximately 12 houses that'll be on that. The Hoff Power charging station. Shepherd Lane, we'll be rerouting lines on that to service 4 houses. The Lampasas substation upgrade, that should be complete this year. The business park, and then South Highway 281 Txdot project, it's also scheduled to be completed with the electric department this year. Then the pole set projects, again, the pole changeout inspection project, we only did 14 this last year. We set a total of 154 poles. Service upgrade connects were 60, new services 64, and the temp services 30. Our yearly projects are spring hoe, Christmas lights, Carol of Lights, and the tree trimming project. McCoy's is currently right now working on the west side of Key Avenue. They started in January 4th, so they've just begun. They've only been there a week. Then we have 85 call-outs last year. We put those in order of what was the most. Most of those were the weather, telephone lines, customer side, trees, and animal contact. Any questions?
I got one question, kind of stupid question. What does one of those telephone poles cost?
A brand new one, 40 class 4 is probably about $365.
Okay, that sounds good.
And that's our main one. We have, other service poles, shorter poles, but our main ones that we use are 40 class 4.
Gotcha.
Thank you, Flint.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. That's okay. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Van Sims. I'm the Water and Wastewater Operations Manager. I have 8 employees underneath me, 3 at the wastewater plant and 5 in the distribution and collection systems. A majority of our responsibilities from day to day, of course, making water taps and sewer taps for new connections, fixing leaks, sampling, monitoring the lift stations, sewer line repairs, daily checks, of course, of equipment and facilities, and all required sampling by TCQ and EPA. You see some of the numbers from each line item. Like Flint touched on, our line locates are the majority of our day, with Next Link in town, Atmos repairing and replacing gas lines, other contractors in town, road contractors, they call in, request line locates, and it's very important for us to do that because if they get in and break a water or sewer line, then our day is shot having to go and repair those, and of course it shuts down what they're doing. The next one. We have like 564 utility locates throughout the year. Our meter changeout program last year, our contractor changed out 500 of those. We had 14 changed out with our guys. Typical go out at a water leak, and instead of just fixing the water leak, if the meter needs to be changed out, we'll change it out right there and then. Customer service calls, have 108 of those throughout the year. Customer calls in low water pressure, no water, or a leak at their house, we'll go out, turn the meter off for them, anything like that. They had 47 water leaks repaired, and 40 water taps installed, had 27 sewer backups, 22 routing forms. It's identifying service availability for the building department. They'll send us out. We'll let them know that, yes, there is water or sewer in the area, or no, the contractor or home builder will need to extend the water or sewer X amount of feet. We repaired 14 sewer lines and made 12 sewer taps and extended 260 foot of sewer line on North Elm Street for development. At the wastewater plant, and 1,650 cubic yards of processed cake removal. We accepted 303,369 gallons of septic waste. That equates to $22,752 income for the plant. We repaired aeration lines in the AFNA pretreatment plant, and we built 2 aerator mixers in the digester, and installed new level monitoring at the return bases, and the return process basin, and also integrated that into our SCADA system. Water quality testing and reporting is done by the wastewater plant personnel. So every morning, one of the employees goes out at 12 different locations and tests the chlorine residual 2,498 times in the year. In the same 12 locations, we test for nitrogen, nitrites, nitrates, and ammonia. And those 4 are the chemicals as the water gets old and dissipates, these materials start growing. So that's what we're looking for. That's how we tell that the water age is getting older, and that's what dictates us flushing in separate areas. And we do that every other day, so that equates to a little over 1,200 times a year. And then a routine microbial test checking for E. coli and fecal coliform. It's 108 tests a year. Those are required by TCQ. And then our special tests, if we install a water line or if we have a water outage in a neighborhood, when we turn the water off, before we can place it back into service, we have to flush it and test it for E. coli and fecal coliform. And we had to do those 13 times this year. Do y'all have any questions? Oh, that was fast, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Van. Very informative.
Thank you.
Thanks, Becky. Routine matters, we have 5.1, City Manager's Operational Report.
Mayor and Council, just a few brief comments related to the memo that's included in your packet. First and foremost, since about 7:45 this morning, we turned on the fire hose, and Ryan Ward's been drinking out of it. He began his City of Lampasas career this morning, and we're glad to have him. I think Council may be familiar with his background, coming most recently from Santa Fe County in New Mexico as their division head for Public Works. Also had some background with Txdot and City of Austin, and is a consultant for Txdot. So we're happy he's here. Hopefully he'll take a lot of these reporting items that I've been doing and take those off my hands and be able to jump right in. But I might take the opportunity, Mayor, to have Ryan come up and further introduce himself, and you can ask him what he did today.
That'd be great.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. It has been pretty fast. Today really flew by. I was excited to get here, but really been enjoying meeting everyone. Spent a little bit of time today with Carlos in the field, looking at streets and kind of getting my feet wet and getting familiar with everything going on in the city. But I've got a lot to learn still, so I'm anxious for that. But I appreciate the time and I'm really glad to be here and serve the community here in Lampasas, so thank you.
Welcome to Lampasas.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Just a couple of quick things related to residential update. You know, I think the development agreement we had with Mr. Finney was to complete X number of houses in 5 years, you know, a certain percentage, a third or a half of those. Well, he has 13 lots left out of the original 67, so those continue to be very well received in terms of the market. We have 6 permits for single-family units in Hillside Acres. We have 4 lots in various states of completion in Brody Estates, and then site and utility work is also commenced out off of Naroon on the Hidden Oaks subdivision. Eclipse meeting, there'll be a meeting this week, January 13th at 5:30 at the old middle school. This council, I think, has been prepped pretty well. The total eclipse will come over Lampasas April 8th in 2024. We have one of the longest timeframes for totality, and we know based on what's happened across the rest of the United States, when this does happen, you're a target for people from all over the world coming to see you. So our primary involvement, again, we want to try to stick to public safety, public health, some logistics. It'll certainly be a challenge, but we think that that is the appropriate role we take, and of course we're going to have a lot of help and a lot of partners with that. Our Interceptor Assessment, staff has received a draft of that. We will be meeting with the consultant on that project for further discussion and direction, and it does appear that at least two portions of the interceptors are undersized, so we want to talk also about specific recommendations. That'll be presented to council once it's stamped, and we can use that as a game plan for improvement of those undersized interceptors. LAFTA events, I do want to point out a couple of LAFTA events that are coming up, one this spring and one this fall. May 7th, they are planning an Art in the Park event, and this will be geared really for families and kids. It will include music and arts and craft stations, food vendors. It is scheduled right before Mother's Day to hopefully provide kids the opportunity to make gifts for their moms. The other item is kind of a sequel to the very popular and successful Boots and Blazers event. That is being planned for October 15th, 2022. And part of the importance about reporting on this tonight is that they do need to book their entertainment. In order to get the type of entertainment that they would like, they're going to have to book well in advance. And without objection, I would like to maybe propose to council that provided the Parks Board approves this, that it doesn't necessarily have to come back to council, so they can go ahead and book their entertainment. We certainly don't have any calendar conflicts with it, and without objection, we'd proceed along those lines.
Sounds good.
We'll do it. Pre-treatment, we will be meeting with, staff will be meeting with representatives from Ajinomoto Foods North America next week to discuss next steps and a possible framework for construction and capacity agreement. We continue to work with our consultants to prepare a design proposal. So on one hand, we're working with Jones Heroy. They're going to prepare a proposal for designing the upgrade to the plant as well as upgrade to the pre-treatment. And when I say we're meeting with Windsor, this is the first step. This is not what are the points of the agreement. This is how do we get started with it. Who do you want involved in terms of your consultants? What sort of framework are you looking at for an agreement? So we'll start those discussions with Ajinomoto Foods North America. We do know that they are going to be doing some improvements on site to their plant, which we think are an integral component to this project this spring. And without objection, I may just check in with Jennifer Douglas to see what rates are looking like as well. And certainly doesn't cost us anything at this point, but she can kind of give us some picture in terms of where she perceives rates going. Skate park, we have received a project timeline for the skate park. It includes the same components that were within the contract that council approved: the public input phase, conceptual design phase, and then all the way up to construction documents and bidding. The timeline indicates the targeted completion, or the targeted for bidding, is September of 2022, with construction perhaps in the first quarter of 2023. And just as a reminder, because I know this was talked about when council considered the contract, council does have the option at any time, with or without cause, to terminate the contract. East 3rd Street, I think you've seen paint on East 3rd Street. They are locating there. I did take the opportunity to walk that with Ryan this morning, so we're looking for them to move in just as in any time now. I don't know if Carlos is still here. He's not. We're looking, they're going to be mobilizing. We have talked to, again, all of the businesses and those businesses that use 3rd Street for deliveries. So it's a 120-day project to substantial completion. That's on or about May 4th.
May
Pavilion will start excavating for the pavilion this week. The contractor, per the geotech recommendation, excavate to a depth of 4 feet. We did also ask them to go a 5 foot around the perimeter, so you've got 5 feet of excavation outside of the footprint of the concrete. Also, just to remind you, it does include the extension of 20 feet of slab for future kitchen or storage. The final contracted price was $178,000 and some change. Avenue C, contract documents have been executed. I don't believe we have held the pre-con unless it's been held this past week. I don't see Van here, but that is another project that will hopefully commence here within the next 30 days or so. And I believe it is also contracted at 120 days. That'll be about a little over 3,000 feet of sewer to be installed from Key to Porter. Police Department, Sammy is reporting that in order to meet some of the requirements, the legislature's had to submit some additional policy documentation to TCLO. It includes policies related to use of drones, use of force, duty to intervene. Also want to report to you that we have selected 2 individuals to enter the cadet program, whereby we pay them to attend the academy. They come out, we go through the field training with them, and then they are on our staff as patrol officers. And I think Sammy will probably back me up when I say this. We found this to be a fairly successful recruiting tool. It is tough to get the caliber of officer that we want that's already certified sometimes. And we go back to something that I like to say quite a bit of the time, which is, hire what you can't train. Hire good attitude, hire work ethic, hire someone that's going to fit in your community. Am I out of line, Chief Bailey? Library dedication, please mark your calendars for Saturday, February 26th at 10 a.m. They're going to formally dedicate the library park. The city is indebted to the Foundation Board for designing, funding, implementing this resource, and we're hopeful for good weather. Business Park, pre-bid meeting was held on January 4th. We had about 5 general contractors there and or subcontractors at the meeting. The bid opening is scheduled for January 18th, but we've had a couple of changes that have come up based on the pre-bid. We may push that back. That was tentatively planned to be on the LADC board meeting for possible award for February 16th. And again, that's could be a $1.7 to $2 million project for roads, water, and sewer drainage in the business park. And so then when I just know that when we start turning dirt out there, Mandy's going to be on the phone quite a bit. There's going to be people blowing her up. We're pleased to recognize the following employees who began their career with the city of Lampasas in December. Samantha McKenzie, 1 year. Shanda Subia, 15 years. Yvonne Moreno, 24 years. And Colt Despain, 1 year. Actually, Colt was with us before, and he's went off and he decided he liked us too much and came back. So this is his second 1 year anniversary. Thank you.
Thanks, Finley. No mayor's comments tonight. We'll go straight into new business. 7.1, discussion and possible action regarding a joint election agreement between the Lampasas Independent School District and the City of Lampasas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. It's that time of year again. The agreement is essentially the same as what we've done in previous years. We've actually done a joint election with the school since about 2007, from my understanding, so it's a normal thing that we do procedurally. This is the same type of agreement. I'm just asking for you to approve it this evening, and we'll move forward.
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objection?
Thank you.
7.2, discussion and possible action regarding funding in the amount of $5,000 to support the SITCOG Household Hazardous Waste Collection event to be held in Kempner, Texas on February 26, 2022.
Mayor and Council, Mr. Williamson could not be here this evening, but if you would recall, back on December 13th, he spoke during the public comments, during the session to bring up the SITCOG event that's going to be handled in the city of Kempner this year. He just wanted to see about getting some funding to participate in SITCOG if needed. Right now, currently, there's $15,000 that was given from SITCOG to the Clean Earth Environment Solutions to help disposal of the hazardous waste. Lampasas County has committed to $5,000, and then they asked that the city of Lampasas would commit to $5,000. That doesn't mean that it would be used necessarily. It just means that it's there as a cushion just in case the funding goes over of the expenses, depending on how big of an event this turns out to be. However, if it's just a commitment, it is not something that we will pay unless we have to pay at that time if council wants to contribute. I do want to mention that the city of Lampasas does, through our Waste Connections, we do have the at-your-door service that we do provide for the hazardous waste, where customers can call us, we can schedule time, they can go pick up the paint, the miscellaneous things at their door, and that's part of their actual trash service that we provide on a monthly basis. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as well as something we already do provide for our citizens right now.
Can I get a motion? I think it will die for a lack of motion. No one interested in helping?
I understand completely. Thank you.
Seven point three, discussion and possible action determining 14 wireless access point devices as surplus and authorizing staff to dispose of the items per state law. Monica?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. These wireless access points, they've been replaced with a newly supported model as part of our replacement program. Staff is just requesting a motion to declare these 14 wireless access points as surplus and allow to place on GovDeals.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Are there any questions of Monica? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and selection of the, consider the selection of the winner of the website photo.
Mayor and City Council, there were 5 photo entries for the month of December.
Here we go again.
They were all quite good.
Yep.
Anyone want to nominate one?
I'd like to nominate number 1.
Have a motion for number 1.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 1.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Sure. 7.5, discussion and possible action regarding the extension of an emergency ordinance temporarily amending Ordinance 1148, City of Lampasas Personnel Policy Manual, Section 8.0, Leave Time, subsection 8.05, Family and Medical Leave, and subsection 8.15, Sick Leave Pool in response to COVID-19.
Mayor and Council, this was discussed during workshop, how you wanted to handle to go forward with the emergency ordinance on the COVID leave.
We got to make a motion. I'll make a motion to do it, but
Second.
so we can get into
Well, I
conversation.
think we want to,
We need the
We wanna-
parameters of how
yes.
many
Kathy?
hours and how long.
Kathy, can you make a motion?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to make a motion that we have the parameters, we extend it, but we have the parameters of 40 hours instead of 80, and that we do it for a 6-month period at a time and check back and see where we're at that point.
Just a quick question. What is the 5 and 10 day thing that you're? Oh,
And then we'll ask some questions.
Okay.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Now, questions?
Just what is, I'm getting confused, I guess, as I watch TV, but the 5 and 10, does this reflect anywhere of what we do, or? And I'm talking about, that's probably for Chief Smith.
You're talking about the
You're
quarantine.
talking from
day?
the CDC
Quarantine
requirement,
time.
where it went from 10 days to 5 now?
Did that answer?
Yeah, as close as anything can get.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All those, excuse me, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objection? Thank you, Yvonne.
Yes, ma'am.
7.6, discuss and consider restriction of certain amounts of the general fund balance for the purpose of purchasing a fire apparatus.
Mayor and council, this is to designate that 400,000 for the fire apparatus. When council designates that money to a certain fund, then those monies are specifically for that purpose only. The auditor, when they come in, they will do that entry, if that's what we so desire.
I'm recommending approval. This is the way we used to do it quite a while back. But
I'll second.
Second, and for questions, we could do more if necessary, if we wanted to put more money aside, right? Instead of the 400?
Well, since that fiscal year is closed and over with, I can't do any more.
But going forward,
Going forward, you can, yes, ma'am.
I think
We
we're
would
going
have to decide that at the end of the budget year, I'm sorry.
I think a fire apparatus is going to cost us a little bit of money.
Mayor and council, we do have that amount budgeted again for this year. However, I think we're going to come up short, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's
As council saw during the financial report, we've had several years previous to prior to 20, that we were able to send additional funds to general fund balance because of the year-end financial position. So we have built that fund balance up a little bit, and so that may be an option as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any objections?
Thank you.
Thank you. 7.7, discussion and possible action regarding Txdot request to purchase City of Lampasas property for South Highway 281 improvement project.
Mayor and council, this was discussed in workshop. As previously stated, staff would be happy to bring back any offer to council, or council may consider a motion to authorize staff to negotiate and finalize conveyance. At your pleasure.
When we make the motion, let's designate that if we could. I'd entertain a motion,
So moved.
second.
but can we designate?
So moved that Finley can
Can
handle
only
it.
be authorized to,
Authorize the city manager to negotiate and finalize the conveyance, if that's council's pleasure.
Yes, that's great.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any objection? Everybody good? 7.8, discussion and possible action concerning approval of the contract for election services between Lampasas County, Texas, and the City of Lampasas, Texas for the May 7th, 2022 general election.
Mayor and council, again, this is essentially the same, but however, there's been a few changes to this, what we've seen in the past. One of them, we've added a polling location. Normally, we just do it at the Kempner Fire Station and at the elections office. This year, we're adding the Lomita City Hall into our polling location because there were some amendments made constitutionally that were not met with the standard for the November election, so they're doing it in the May election as well. So we had to open it up county-wide. That will not impact the city of Lampasas per se as far as funding. It'll still from the county, but that is an additional polling location on this year's agreement with the county. We also increased fees for the judges and for the election workers. It went from $8.50 and $9.50 to $10 and $11 for them to volunteer their time to assist us and help us so this day. I did put on your agenda cover those two constitutional amendments, just in case you were interested in them as well. And then at this time, I'm just asking for an approval to approve the contract services with the county.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
Becky.
much.
I think we're to the end. If I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's go home.